Everyone has a story to tell. Welcome to DingoTalk, where we explore the experiences that make us who we are. Here's your host, Carlo Guadagnino.
What's going on, Chuckleheads? Welcome back to Dingo Talk. This week we are taking a break from talking to the coaches as we have a long ago in a faraway land. We had a guest on. He's now back. He's not a coach anymore. He's the athletic director at Bethany College, Brian Sansom. Athletic Director Sansom is going to tell us all the things going on in the athletic department at Bethany College, all the new things, all the new programs coming. Plus, we're going to talk about going from the coach to the now administrative side of athletics. I also want to take the time to thank Brian for taking the time to talk to us, because this is an important part of the Division III level, is the athletic director at the small school. If you're watching us on YouTube or listening to us on Spotify or watching us on Spotify, really appreciate you. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Make sure you check out all the social medias. It's Instagram, TikTok, Facebook, and Twitter. The only one different is the Instagram page. It's Dingo_talk. And don't forget to make sure you tune in after the episode for the overtime segment, because somebody's either going to have a really good week or completely be eliminated from contention. So without further ado, let's talk about Bethany Athletics with Brian Sansom. What's going on, Chuckleheads? I am Carlo Guadagnino. This is Dingo Talk. It's a very special episode of Dingo Talk. It's our first returning guest all the way. You have to go 3 years ago. The beard was a little longer. The set was a little different. There was tea involved. I don't have tea for you this time. I can't offer that through the camera. Formerly Coach Sansom, now Athletic Director Brian Sansom. Thank you for joining us and returning to Dingo Talk.
Yeah, thanks for having me. Glad to be back. And yeah, it's been a few years since I've been on, and boy, a lot of things have changed since then.
So let's talk about that. How do we go? The last time we talked, we were in the midst of a pandemic. There was a whole lot of what's going to happen going into these seasons. And now here we sit, you're the athletic director. So how did that change come about, and why was it time for you to move?
Yeah, I've been coaching for a long time. I'm young. I'm 38 still. Well, getting older, but still what people consider young. But I coached for a long time. I was very fortunate to get started coaching when I was about 20. About 20. So I've been doing this for about 18 years. And the timing was right. When I came, I wanted to rebuild the women's basketball program. And, I thought we got the program in the right spot. And honestly, it was, President Caridi and I just had a random lunch one day, and he just asked me where I wanted my career to go to. And I had mentioned, in about 3 or 4 years, I'd like to probably step away. My son, Lucan's going to be getting into stuff, and I wanted to have more time outside of recruiting. And I told him I wanted to be in athletic administration though. And, he kind of took that back, and we were in the midst of, trying to find an AD at the time. And we were naming an interim. Mike Worrell was the interim at the time. And then I think, Jill Wilson actually might've been the interim at the time.
Mm-hmm.
So a lot of these discussions end up happening, and we went through a search, and I guess we just the applicant pool wasn't what they were looking for, and Jamie will tell you the same thing. They all went back and said, well, our guy's kind of right here on campus, and I just had to make the decision that I want to step away 3 years earlier than I thought, coaching wise.
Mm-hmm.
And they gave me an option to coach another year, but I knew it would be too much. So ultimately I thought it was the best decision for where I wanted to make an impact on the college. And I thought it would be a good time to bring some stability to the department, because we had some changeover for 2 or 3 straight years. And it just seemed right, and the time seemed right. And I knew I was leaving the women's basketball program in a good position for somebody to take over. And I just thought maybe I could impact the department a little bit more in a bigger role.
Now, was that, once you came to that decision, what was the conversation like with the team? Because you guys were coming off pretty successful back-to-back years of establishing what you wanted to be as a program. That was going in, I believe, all that whole group was kind of the senior group, right?
Yeah, they were coming back. We just had back-to-back rookie of the years. Lindsey Garrison just came off of being Rookie of the Year, and we were set up, to have it, getting ready to make a nice run. It was one of the harder conversations that I had to have with a team. And what made it worse was I had to do it over Zoom because it was summer. So not being able to actually get in front of the young ladies and actually have that conversation is probably what was killer the most. But I tell you what, they were great about it. They were understanding about it. We shared some tears, we shared some laughs, and I'm sure there were some that were cheering as well, as that happens in coaching as well. But I think they understood it from a bigger picture standpoint. But I think they knew that, and I think the big selling point that I had to them was, I'm just going to be across the gym. Yeah, I won't be with you at practice. I won't be with you at all your games, but I'm still going to be here as your number one supporter, and here to make sure that you have a great experience, and just be able to help that in a different role. And after the dust settled a little bit, I think everybody saw that, and I think it worked out for the best.
Well, now, before we were on camera, before we were recording, I guess we're always on camera. We were talking about some of the projects that you guys have already kind of started or are in the process of starting or completed. So let's talk about that a little bit. Fundraising and whatnot. What's the big changes coming to the department?
Yeah, some quick things that we had, happen obviously was we redid the basketball floor. We redesigned the whole thing. We painted it different colors, and we have a bison that goes from 3-point line to 3-point line now, rather than just in the middle. It's huge.
Yeah.
It's pretty cool. We dedicated the court to Joe Curry, late Joe Curry, obviously well-deserved. We put up some different, mats underneath the baskets that did some branding. The other big thing in the gym that we've done also is we got a video board, a $73,000 video board put up in there, which has really helped with. We just actually got it started up and running here in September, but it's really allowed us to help us with some recruiting, give some extra love to these recruits, as we live in an era that's a big thing. Our in-game stuff became pretty cool, where you're able to, somebody gets a spike and you're able to put a graphic up on the board, and it gets everybody excited. Some of the other bigger things that we're looking at, we're just actually going to be putting in a new baseball scoreboard. So funny, Carlo, on that video board's I'm 38. And that scoreboard down at the baseball field, I was told when the Nevco rep came and looked at it, is that board is 35 years old. That's older than me. So he said, it's time, I think. And I said, well, it's barely worked the last 2 years. And it's not fun as the AD to continue to see that. So we're getting a new scoreboard down there for the baseball complex. But the one thing that's coming along is we're doing an athletic renovation, putting in a new fitness center, $1 million renovation to a fitness center. Going to brand the lobby area as you walk in the gym. We're going to provide a full membership fitness center to the community, to the surrounding area people as well. And we're going to do a digital Hall of Fame in the walkway too. So no more plaques up and down the hallways. We're actually going to have a 65-inch TV that's going to be on the wall there. That's going to be branded, and people can come in and type in your name and say, hey man, you can go back and look at dad or grandpa or sister or aunt, whatever. And that's going to be a really nice thing. And then on top of all the other renovations that are going on campus, really benefit us when you talk about recruiting and trying to move the college forward. We've had a lot of other odds and ends that we've been doing, but they're not the glorious ones. The new roof on the building and things like that. Nobody really cares about that except for the AD.
Well, now let's talk about new roof on that building. That probably makes the cleaning staff very happy, because that helps with that rec area. I know that rec area, there was a back in the day, I get to say that back in the day, we had trash cans and a bucket here, and don't go on that court. You might get play at your own risk down there. So
it's definitely made it nice that we don't have to cancel recruits or people coming to campus when it rains anymore.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's really nice that now we can have a walkway that's not filled with buckets, and it was something that was much needed, and we're very appreciative of it, because again, it allows this place to be more like home, and we want the students to enjoy coming in and out of here, and our visitors.
Now, let's talk about recruitment from the AD standpoint. What are you looking for out of the respective coaches when they're looking at student athletes? Is there a criteria that you're kind of looking for that next person to be part of the Bison family?
Yeah, I mean, I think the biggest thing that we talk about is we talk about numbers. Each coach got to meet a number, et cetera. But we also need to talk retention. So when we're recruiting those students, we want to recruit students that can academically survive here as well.
Mm-hmm.
We want to recruit young men and women that are going to make an impact here and leave a legacy. We want them to stay for 4 years. I think that's the thing now when we're recruiting is let's not just recruit to meet a number. Let's recruit to people that are going to make an impact. Let's recruit good citizens. Let's recruit people who we need to mentor though as well.
Mm-hmm.
We still recruit, all over the place as much as we can, but we really tried to narrow back in. Let's bring it back home a little bit. Let's hit the Ohio Valley a little bit more. Let's hit the WPIAL. Let's hit West Virginia. And I think our coaches are really diving deep into that. But the biggest thing is we want to recruit somebody to our academic profile, right? We want them to be able to thrive here,
Mm-hmm.
and be able to provide them the support that we do need whenever that is the case, for those students. So, I really don't tell a coach, hey, this is who and when and how you got to, but we do talk about what's your plans, where you going, what your recruiting numbers look like. If you need to bring in 15, you need to recruit about 500, and just, we have a lot of young coaches. So there's a lot of strategy building and a lot of mentoring that goes around finding the right student athlete here for Bethany because we want them to stay all 4 years.
Now, you pointed out there are a lot of young coaches, specifically in the last couple of years. There's been a lot of turnover in the sense of, Coach Forsty moved retired, Coach Klein, Coach Hillier decided to hang him up and just become a full teacher. Those are two that really jump out to me. You also have on the other side an alumni coming back home and running the program that he was a part of with a national championship. What would you say the overall dynamic of the department is? What did you have the old, you have the new, and you have a bunch of interesting personalities coming together?
Yeah, so since I've been the AD, I've hired 11 coaches. And I've been here 2 years, and so that's a lot of change. But sometimes with an administrative change that sometimes happens, and
Mm-hmm.
I think we're moving into an era where we just have a lot of young coaches that are really eager to build a program. I think mentoring them to have them understand the other aspects that go into coaching. I think a lot of times, not that our coaches don't understand this, because I think they do, for the most part, understand that, a lot of your job is helping 18 to 24-year-olds kind of learn who they are,
Mm-hmm.
and really kind of being a shoulder for them to kind of, somebody they can lean on when they make some mistakes. And I think with our coaches, it's finding that balance each day of not getting lost in some of the weeds, as we
Mm-hmm.
talk about. Don't get too far dove down into your day that you forget to plan your practice, or get out and talk to people on campus. Go get involved on campus. They're a young group, so there is a lot of mentoring and a lot of questions that are being asked, which is fine. I'd rather have a coach come in here every 30 minutes than them be unsure and them not be able to do their job to the level that we want them to. Yeah, it's been a complete shift. We had some older coaches, and right now I think Ryan Hilliers, our male coach who's been here the longest. I think that's going into his 7th or 8th year, and
Sounds about right.
Alyssa Finelli going in, just finishing up her 4th year, or 5th year, is our longest tenured women's coach. So yeah, that should tell you a lot when you got 22 sports and those are your longest tenured coaches.
Well, and let's dive in a little bit, because there's going to be 3 more coaches added to that mix. There are 3 programs that have been added in your time, and one of them starts here in December. So let's talk about men's volleyball, and then we'll move on to the other 2 programs.
Yeah, men's volleyball. Obviously, when I first took over, there was a lot of talk. How do we help increase enrollment? And we obviously know that athletics has a big hand in that. We're not
Mhm.
the only driving force, but we have a big hand in bringing in the recruits to campus. And we were looking at what's an emerging sport, and at that time it was men's volleyball.
Yeah.
So we did a search, hired Chuck Shoemaker, who was the Alderson and Broadus head coach at the time, and he's recruited a first class, and here we go. We're starting that in late December, and they'll start practices in January, and here in a year, I think it's a year, the conference will actually have men's volleyball sponsored
Wow.
as a pack. So a lot of schools are starting to add it. So what happened was we added it. Actually, Chatham added it, then we added it, and then Grove City announced that they were adding it. So we're going to have enough teams to have our own conference here. Not this year. We're going to play independent,
Hmm.
but the following year. So we're really excited about it. Kind of brings something different. Our women's volleyball program has been, one of our top programs for the last 10 years, if not beyond. So now adding the men's sport to it, we're looking for that to be really competitive as well.
Now, fill me in on what does the independent circuit look like when you're
Well,
trying to fill a schedule out?
yeah, so obviously we play some of the other PAC schools that currently have men's
Hmm.
volleyball. We'll play some of the AMCC schools. So there's different schools in the AMCC that have teams that they sponsor, because
Yep.
that's technically who the other schools in our conference right now play in. They play in the AMCC
Okay.
with some of those schools. So then independently, we'll go out and try to play some different teams. So we join some tournaments, play some tri matches. We can end up playing a couple D2 schools if we need to, but
Mhm.
we went out and scheduled a lot of regional opponents that already sponsor men's volleyball.
And then, so with that program getting ready to start up, you then have for a year from now, there'll be another program that'll be picking up its legs, and that's women's wrestling, which is that a sport that's growing in popularity as well for on the women's side?
Yeah, so it's when we're doing our research to figure out how do we, one big thing for us was we wanted to increase the female enrollment population. So how do we
Hmm.
do that, right? So this was with our next two sports that we're adding, which is obviously this first one we're talking about, women's wrestling, was one of those. It's an NCAA emerging sport, and so it was one that we did some research in, and it was one that is starting to grow fast. High
Okay.
school really being sponsored, a lot in Pennsylvania. It's really taken off in Ohio. West Virginia is even starting to really add the number of individuals that are wrestling in West Virginia. And I actually think in West Virginia this year it'll be sponsored as a state tournament.
Okay.
For the first time, where I think it's actually going to be sponsored at the state level for a state tournament. So it's really growing, and honestly, I think in our conference, I won't put the schools out there that I've talked about because they're not going public with it. But I've spoken to one or two ADs at other schools that say, "Hey, I noticed you guys added this. What'd you do? How'd you do it? We're really looking at this too." So don't be surprised in the next 5-6 years that you see some other schools in our conference that are going to add it as well. But right now too, it's Hiram has it, Otterbein has it, West
Mm.
Liberty just added it. So we're going to be able to have some regional competitions right off the get go. That's going to be pretty cool for us.
And then what is the last one is, and I want to make sure I don't want to insult anybody with and mess up the title. So what is the last of the three sports that are being added?
Acrobatics and tumbling.
And
So
is that
is,
also in that emerging, like
yes.
it's definitely, it's something that you've seen the number in bigger schools and
Yep.
smaller schools, it's growing.
Yeah, it is growing. I think they're at 55 teams in the country right now that have it. It's an all-female sport. There are no males. There are
Okay.
no male coaches. So it's a really unique sport. Again, another way for us to provide opportunities for females here at Bethany. And you can recruit a bunch of different student athletes for this: cheerleaders, dance, competitive cheer, even athletes of other sports. Gymnastics, different types of students
Yeah.
have the opportunity to participate in the sport, and it's really cool. This past year, West Liberty hosted the national championship, and I
Mhm.
was able to actually go up and watch it, and I got to watch Frostburg State compete against Oregon.
Wow.
Yes, the Oregon Ducks.
Wow.
And just the excitement that filled the arena. You could see a difference in the D1 to D2 student athlete, but the excitement from the sport that it brought was really cool. And we hired a great coach, and I should have went back and Everett Wines, our first women's wrestling coach, he's doing a great job so far. Cassidy Montando, our first acro and tumbling coach, doing a great job. And yeah, we're excited about the possibilities. It's going to provide some different sports in the gym that we're not used to, right? On a Saturday afternoon or a Thursday night. It's instead of being a basketball game, come in and watch the wrestling match.
Yeah.
And involve and the same thing with acrobatics and tumbling. It's something that I have no idea about because I would not be good at any of it. I can barely do a somersault, let alone do some of the fantastic things they can do. So we're really excited about it. It'll bring some different things to the campus, which we want to do.
The last time I did a somersault, I tripped going down the ramp in Bubba's, and it wasn't a purposeful somersault. It was just the safest way to get down the steps. So Coach, we talked a little bit about some of these emerging things that are coming up in the NCAA. And this is going to focus more into football here in a second, but what are some of the big changes coming? Because now you're on the administrative side, you're going to the conferences and whatnot. What should we expect different coming from Division III here in the next couple years that's being discussed?
Yeah, I think the possibilities that are now being brought and opened up to Division III, right? I think the spotlight was always on Division I and making sure that we're providing opportunities for the people that are going to make us money. But I think what you're seeing a lot now is a lot of support being given to Division III to expand their championships, provide more opportunities. I think something that you'll see here in a few years when you mention football is I think you'll see, I think they're going to add some teams to the championship. So I think they'll add, somewhere between 3 to 5 more teams and that are going to have a chance to compete for the championship. I think that will allow some more at-large bids and provide opportunities that could be a 2-bid conference, an opportunity to do some things. I think what you're going to see also is, NIL. It's kind of crazy. It's really kind of dipped into down in Division III. But you're not seeing some of the extreme ones, but I'm waiting for that first Division III person to sign a big deal to open up people's eyes to see what great athletes we do have at our level. I think the ever-changing landscape of mental health, I think the opportunities that are being provided there and the resources. So I think what you're going to start seeing is on campuses more resources to help student athletes through those pressures of being a young adult and trying to be successful on their in their sports field and off. And I think some of those things are going to be huge. I think some of the things that changed recently that has changed already how crazy our facility is throughout the year is they moved away from the week system to the day system.
Yeah.
So a lot of sports got 114 days, or you got track and field and stuff. They got 144. So, it was a little strange seeing our basketball team out there having a full practice that they're allowed to have in September. And you got lacrosse going, and a couple hours later, you got, your softball teams out there. It's just like we have everybody going at once now. And, I think as we talk about wanting to provide opportunities for our students, I think from somebody at a small school that worries about retention and recruiting, being able for us to be able to work with our student athletes as soon as they get here, and I think is imperative. But how we do that is also imperative. We don't need to go out there. We're not going to win a national championship because we worked out September 5th. Yeah. I think it's using that time to really get them acclimated to what college sports are all about, and kind of let them know this is kind of how your day is going to look as a student athlete. And I think providing that educational piece to them during this time is crucial. But you never know what's going to come down the pipeline, and I think it's just us being ready to continue to evolve over time and adapt to the changes that are coming. There's been minor rule changes in sports that have, I think, allowed the game to speed up. I think that allows more opportunity for more excitement.
Mhm.
I think what's being a former women's basketball coach, I think what's disappointed is how. And now I shouldn't say this because I do think that finally women's basketball is starting to get some attention that they need, and they deserve. You look at the game yesterday, Iowa women's basketball team. I think Caitlin Clark scored more points yesterday than Iowa's football team has maybe all year, uh, in that stadium. So it's being able to provide opportunities for our student athletes to showcase their talents on and off the court. I think is something that's starting to be noticed at our level.
Now, and I guess you touched on a couple of good things there. The NIL falls in with the transfer portal. Now, I've talked to a lot of football coaches this season. It's kind of our theme, and a lot of them have said that that's not necessarily how they're building their programs. Now, we hear, like you said, the extreme cases where fourth school in 5th year or 5 years, or third school in 4 years. Is that is it as prevalent in Division III right now with the transfer portal, or is it, because I would assume some of those people are looking they want to go and play. They want to go and play. So like, if you're not getting play over the hill at West Liberty, but you like the area, well, there's a school right over the hill if you want to play basketball or you want to play football or baseball. Is that something that you guys are seeing?
Yeah. It's, the transfer portal has really taken off, right? It's been a trickle down effect. It really started at the highest level, right? Division I, and it's made its way down to us. There's thousands on thousands of student athletes that are being left in the portal because they're waiting for that one Division I school that's still maybe given an opportunity, and they don't. And then they're being left without an opportunity to play. But yeah, it's become another resource for us to be able to recruit out of. You don't see you don't see it as much where you have that kid transferring for the 4th or 5th time at our level that you may at the higher level. But yeah, we ask our coaches every week to get in the transfer portal to see if there's student athletes in there that make sense. And what we find a lot of times is student athletes that we might have been one of their last, we were in their top 3, but then they chose a Division II school potentially. And then after a year, they realized, boy, I really wanted the opportunity to actually play while getting my education, but I'm not being able to actually get on the floor or on the field. Let me go back and get in the portal. And then, hey, Bethany calls me again, and I loved it, other than I wanted to play at a higher level. And we've been able to kind of benefit from that in different sports, right? I think, each year, I think we get a couple more transfers than we did the year before. I think we had about 20 total, 23 or 24 transfers this past year. And I think the year prior, we weren't even at 8 or 9. So that's going to continue to build as our coaches are also recruiting out of that as well. And I think there's, it's great, but it's also bad. I think we're instant, and I think you see it a lot more at the higher level. Instant, I'm not playing, I'm transferring. A lot of kids are still choosing, a lot of kids do choose to Bethany, obviously, to play their sport, but ultimately they're choosing because they want to get their education here. So a lot of times they're staying here and sticking it out a little bit. But I'm waiting for us to benefit on one of those kids that went D1 that say, I'm from Wheeling, West Virginia, and I want to go play D3, but I went to play at WVU my first year and I'm not playing, and now I'm going to go to Bethany. Because there have been other D3s that have benefited from that.
Yep.
We've benefited from the portal, from a school side and an academic side, and even our transfers. Again, we're not getting a Duke transfer, but we've picked up a lot of quality individuals through the transfer portal, and it will continue to be that way and continue to grow.
So encompassing all that, and I did tell you there was a question I was going to ask you. We're moving on from that question, so don't take it out of your mind. That for those of you at home, you want to ask the question later, shoot me a message after you watch this. You can find out what the question is, maybe. So I'm going to ask, I think I asked you these questions before, and they used to be the ending of the show. They're not the end, but what is the significance of Division III athletics? And we've touched on a lot of things and where Division III athletics is heading, but what separates Division III athletics from your D1 and your D2, minus for some sports, they'll say the speed? Obvious answer, those are scholarship athletes. Other than that, what is the draw for Division III?
Yeah, I think it's to be able to get a focus where your focus is first on your academics, while still being able to have an opportunity to compete at a high level. I think if you're not a superior athlete, you're not going to get in a scholarship. But if you're an athlete who does have talent and who has an ability to be successful on at a collegiate level, Division III provides you that opportunity. It's also going to provide you an opportunity to have balance. You're going to be able to be involved on campus in Greek life, in campus organizations, sometimes play two sports while still being a double major. I think that's the uniqueness of Division III. I think the opportunities that are still provided there allow students to still pursue what they love to do, right? They're not getting any money. Not one student comes to Bethany because they're going to get paid to be on any team.
Big sponsorship from Chambers.
Yeah, unless you get a sponsorship from Harry Chambers down there. Good luck on that one.
Let me know how that works out, because I want you to manage me at that point.
Yeah, but I just think it's a level that, and I'm not disparaging any other divisions, but I think it's really the level that is the purest still. That you don't have the behind the scenes people trying to take other people's recruits and setting them up for failure and money deals behind closed doors and different things like that. I just think it's the purest conference for what a true student athlete means, and I think that's never going to change, and I think that's what makes it special.
And then obviously you're the athletic director of Bethany. We need to give you the time to explain to us why, if a student athlete's out there looking, what is it about Bethany? I have my opinions. I know you have yours. What are your opinions on why Bethany is the right fit for certain people and why it's not the right fit for certain people?
Yeah, I think what you said right there is what I think hits the nail on the head. Is Bethany isn't for everybody, right? But so are a lot of other places. I think what makes Bethany special is our size. I think is our ability to provide a really high quality education in a small setting with some of the top professors in the area, with allowing students to still excel in other things that they want to do outside academically. I think right now we're a growing college. Yeah. I think if you come to Bethany, you're part of something that's going to be, we're not going to be as small as we were 3-4 years ago. Enrollment's going to be here in the next 2-3 years. We're going to be looking to be in the 900s. So, Bethany is a place that you come and you feel like you're at home. You get treated. You're not a number. You're a person. It's what I tell my student athletes at every beginning of the year meetings that I've had the last 2 years, is that you are a person first before you're anything else. And you need to be treated as a person before anything else, and never let that die here. And I think what is important is I think that's how everybody else feels here. I think the support that you are given by your faculty members, by your staff members, you can walk down the street and you're going to find one of your professors, that lives in town. They come to your sporting events, they come to your theater events. And I think that small school setting, I think is something that's still special. And I think we're going to keep it that way, even though we're trying to grow in numbers. And the small class sizes to everybody, sometimes that's a positive, sometimes that's a negative. But I think having the opportunity to get the one-on-one attention you need as a student, I think is still imperative in the days that we live in, especially because we have a lot of first generation students who have never been through this process. Their family's never been through it. And I think we do a pretty good job of supporting them and helping them through those processes to let them be successful.
And then what is the message to the Bison community on the alumni side for the athletics?
Yeah, I think is come support, come out and watch what's happening. I think it's sometimes, I think sometimes when you're changing when there's a changing of guard, and when programs change head coaches, when there's new ADs, when there's new administration, I think sometimes we instantly look at, what's going wrong. But I think you would come out, and I think if you come out and support the student athletes, I think you'll see a lot of good things that are happening. Our students are getting much more involved in the community. They're doing a lot more fundraising. Our academics continue to rise. Last year, this past spring, was the highest GPA in the department that we had, which was a 3.22 as a department in the last 10, 15 years. So moving from the academic side over to the athletic side, our volleyball team has been very successful. It's how do we adapt that to get our other programs to kind of follow suit with that. And it's, just spending time as coaching staff, providing more professional development opportunities for our coaches, providing more opportunities for our student athletes to be recognized at a national level, which Jen Windmiller, my associate AD, is doing a phenomenal job at getting student athletes opportunities at a national level. I think when you look at wins and losses, I think it's very easy to say, a team's good or a team's bad, and I think sometimes that's fair. That's fair in sports. But I think sometimes, unless you're out and watching, I think you'd be very impressed with the type of men and women that we're running out and competing in our conference. And that's what I'm proud of the most is we have a lot of great young men and women who are representing that name across the chest. That Bethany College, that means a lot to so many people, especially our alumni. And, I think they know the history of that. And I think it's important to them as well.
All right. Now, the last time you were with us, we didn't have this portion of the show. These are 5 questions.
Oh boy.
That are designed just for our guests. And then there's 4 questions. And then there's the last question of the show. So rapid fire, first thing comes to your mind. If you could live anywhere in the world, where would it be and why?
North Carolina. I'm a
And
Tar
why is
Heel
that?
Tar Heel fan. My wife's a Tar Heel fan. My brother actually lives there. It's somewhere. I don't know why. It's not always the warmest, but I can't, I'm a Husky fella, so I don't always like being where it's real hot. But North Carolina has always been a place to me that I want to move. When I get there, we'll see if I still feel the same way.
Also, congratulations to your wife on her Hall of Fame nod there.
Yes,
So-
she's a spectacular athlete and a greater wife and mother than
Super
I
mom.
ever asked for. Yep.
What is the most important lesson that you have learned over your career?
Patience.
Would you like to
Patience.
elaborate?
I was a young coach that back in the day when I started in this business of athletics and at the collegiate level, I was very impatient. I was very, one of things done a certain way at a certain time. And what I've learned is good things take time.
Mhm.
And you need to have patience and let people make mistakes, let people grow, mentor people. But I think patience is the biggest thing that I've learned. Part of that I think is becoming a dad. I think my student athletes that I coached those 2 years when I was still coaching, when we had Lucan, would tell you that I was a different coach because I was a lot more understanding and patient. And that's really helped me in this position as the AD, right? Because, we have, we got great student athletes and coaches, but sometimes they do some boneheaded things. But it reminds me, be patient. I was once that age. I once did some stupid things. I once asked some silly questions. I once put myself in some silly situations. Be patient and let these people grow, and there'll be something special one day.
If you weren't the athletic director and or a coach, I have to edit this for you specifically. What would your job be and why?
That's funny. I had, when I was growing up, I had a lot of people believe that I was going to be a pastor, or a guidance counselor.
I
And
could
I
see
think
guidance counselor.
a little bit of coaching is being a guidance counselor, or an AD. I think there's a lot of tendencies that come with being a guidance counselor. But I had a lot of people think that I was going to be a pastor, and preach God's word, and I think that came a lot from my personality. That everywhere I go, I try to make people feel welcome.
Mhm.
I try to make people feel a certain way, that they're important, that they matter, and I think that's just started when I was a young age. And I don't know, with some of the things I've probably done in my life, I don't know if I'd be accepted into the pastoral world anymore. But I'd probably, to be honest though, either a guidance counselor, or even a phys ed teacher, is probably where my life would have taken me. Always wanted to be a cop, but I, I don't know if I truly would want to anymore or not.
Nope. That one's off the list. I can tell you, I was never trying to be a firefighter or a cop. Those were two jobs that were like, I have respect for you, but you're over there.
Yes,
Um,
correct.
All right, this is a two-parter. Best compliment you've ever received.
Oh boy, best compliment I've ever received. Oh, that's hard. These are challenging. Best compliment I've ever received. Um, Probably just, and I don't know if this makes sense or not, just a thank you.
Mhm.
Somebody thanking me for taking the time to care about their kid. This happened when it's happened a few times as I've been a coach, and even as an athletic director, it's happened to me a few times through some things. But the best compliment that I can get is honestly a thank you.
Mhm.
And that can be in many ways. It could be a verbal thank you. It could just be, hey, if I ask you, can you help me with something, and you do help me with something. To me, I'm very simple. I don't ask for a lot. I don't ask for any accolades. I don't want any, people try to tell me this and that. And I'm like, it's not about me. But hearing a thank you every once in a while is some of the best compliments that I can get, as somebody that's in my seat, that spends a lot of time with a lot of different people.
Mhm. And then obviously the other side of compliments. And as a coach, I'm sure you've heard some good ones. What's the best insult you've ever received?
That I was a terrible coach, and I didn't know what I was doing. And I should probably find a different profession.
And
Um,
it was said just like that. Very, very articulate, that
very,
insult.
very articulate. There was probably some other words that were in there that will keep off air, but um, that just comes with the territory, right? But I'm always the first one to tell you that I will never sit here and tell you I was the greatest coach. I don't sit here and tell anybody I was the greatest. I'm not the greatest person. But I always told people that you're always going to get who I truly am. I am who
Mhm.
I am, and I'm never not going to be that. And sometimes that's a good thing or a bad thing with me. But but I'm sure I've been insulted other different ways, that I probably can't speak of here on the talk.
So the last question I've asked everybody this season: was there a question that you were expecting me to ask you? And if so, how would you have answered it? I told you things have changed since it was just hand you some tea and tell your
Boy,
story.
those were much easier questions back in the day. Boy, this is why, because Dingo Talk's really taken off, and I tell you what, you're doing a great job with it. But it, you know, I thought maybe you would ask a little bit more about, what's the day-to-day life as an athletic director, right? And it's one of the hardest questions that I have to answer, because
Mhm.
people go, "What do you do as an athletic director?" And everybody just assumes I get to show up at 7 o'clock at night and watch a basketball game and make sure the doors are unlocked. And I just tell them there's so much that you do, and each day is different.
Mhm.
And I think that that's why I like the job. Is I don't have one day that's the same. You're dealing with 18 to 24-year-olds. You're dealing with ever changing things that happen in the world every day, and um, there's a lot that goes in this job: budgeting, counseling, mentoring, a lot of administrative tasks, right? So I'm part of the president's cabinet. So
Mhm.
I'm on decisions that we make for the college, you know. Sometimes we're secondary to, if the provost has to make a decision, we're obviously in on that. The cabinet
Yeah.
has to make that decision, so there's a lot of things from the academic calendar to the do we purchase this new software to
Mhm.
do we add public safety that are going to carry guns on campus, right? So who would ever think the athletic director's in a decision that comes with, are we going to allow our public safety to carry a gun? But that's what I get to be a part of. I get to be part of something different each day that gets to
Mhm.
change lives, I thought maybe you'd ask about that. That's what I thought, but it's really hard to summarize into like one or two or three things where you're actually involved in a lot.
Yeah.
And it's just, what is the moment that you're in, have you involved in, I guess.
Well, I guess the follow-up to that is that more of the product of being at a small institution like Bethany that is taking a different attack towards improving the quality at the college, improving the quality of the campus, improving the student, the retention rate and all that? Is that part of being in this changing world that is Bethany?
Yeah, I think a big part of that is the one thing that I really appreciate about President Caridi is here I am. I'm a first time cabinet member. We got some people that are on cabinet that have been, vice presidents for 20 years.
Mhm.
And, I was able to step right in and be able to give my input and my feedback. And I think what he does is he allows us to make a collective decision that makes the best decision for what's going to move the college forward.
Mhm.
Ultimately, just like a head coach, President Critty knows it's on him to make that final decision, but he really allows us as a cabinet to really work together to come up with what's gonna make the most sense, that's gonna benefit our student athletes and I mean our students, sorry, our
Mhm.
students and the future of the college. Because that's what this is all about right now, is moving this college into a place where 30 years from now, people are still saying and talking about Bethany College. And I think at a small college, you do get the opportunity to make an impact that across campus. That at bigger schools, you're just focused on your athletes. Here, we're focused on the whole big picture, and that's everybody. And I think that's what's allowed us to take steps to get back to where I know our alumni who are very proud of what Bethany was. I think
Mhm.
that's allowing us to take steps to get that proud history back going again, that we can create and write our own history from this point forward.
Well, I think, Brian, I think that's a good spot for us to pause. Maybe, who knows, down the road. Again, you're the only person that we've had come back on the show, so maybe we'll take 3 years. Obviously, you and I could talk in between there, but we'll bring you back 3 years later and we'll see where everything's at. For those of you that stick around with us, you know what comes next. It's overtime as we're heading here into the final weeks of the Division III football season. Again, I want to say thank you for taking time out of your schedule to sit down with us. And we'll be right back, Chuckleheads.
What's going on, Chuckleheads? I am Carlo Guadagnino. This is Overtime with Serenity Brown. That's Serenity Brown. Rough week for you. We're not even going to do the standings this week. We're just going to leave it at that. This is a make or break week for you. And we'll get to those picks. First off, I want to say again, thank you to Brian Sansom. And for those of you that have been following, obviously we've had coaches on predominantly through this season. We've also talked with the commissioner of the OAC and now the athletic director from Bethany College. And the reason being is there are other moving parts that make this Division III thing work. So we're very appreciative of them taking the time out of their schedules to sit down with us. Also, Brian's been a long-time supporter of the show, although I will say, I think my beard's better now. I think, he's got to be professional. He can't be going into a business meeting or the cabinet meeting all bushy and whatnot. But he did say on the show, maybe he's letting it grow out again. So we'll have to see. He does have a nice beard when it grows out.
You and his beard.
It's a good beard. Coach Donaldson had a good beard too. We talk beards, good beards recognize good beards. Mine, mediocre beard. mediocre beard at best. If you're watching us on YouTube or listening to us on Spotify, really appreciate you. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Make sure you follow the social medias. That's Instagram, TikTok, Twitter, and Facebook. The only one that's different is the Instagram page. It's Dingo_Talk. And starting this month, yesterday, the November 1st, we are starting off a 30-day fundraiser. So, every contribution, big or small, they really do make a difference for us, for what our plans are with marketing, with going to the games next year, and some merchandise that we'd like to get out. So, you guys, us, can make all this even more special. English, not a strong point. But, yeah, so if you can and are able, check out the link. It's a GoFundMe account. But what we're here for, and like I said, it was a rough week for some people. You did get the Del Val Stevenson game though, right?
It's the only one I got.
Up top. Up top. Yikes. So, starting off, because we don't have a football coach on this week's show, we are doing a little bit different. I picked 2 games that we're really going to be watching, but we're obviously, all 10 of these games are very important to their respective seedings and whatnot with the postseason on its way. So starting off, it's a battle for the Empire 8, I believe. SUNY Brockport at number 16, Cortland.
I'm just letting you know. I know that we all picked Cortland.
Mm-hmm.
Our camera's right in front of the board, so half of them I can't read. Just warning both him and you guys.
All right. So next up is Kings at Stevenson. You took Stevenson. DB and I took Kings. Next up is Belhaven and Southern Virginia. I actually just sat down this week with Belhaven's football coach. This game and the next game for them really kind of determines their fate. Could be the first time in program history that they make the postseason, so that they control their fate. DB and I took Belhaven.
And I took Southern Virginia.
Next up is Dubuque versus Co. Co making their way back into the top 25 for the first time in a couple years. DB and I took Co.
And I took Dubuque.
The next one up is Claremont Mud Scripps and Cal Lutheran. We all took Claremont Mud. The next one is Southwestern. Well, I combined that. Southwestern at Millsaps. DB and I took Millsaps.
No. DB and I took
Millsaps. No, you and I did. Remember, I switched to the purple. DB took Southwestern.
Sorry, guys. Things changed.
DB was a little upset that he didn't have his own specified color, because we underlined who picked what, and we were just signifying his name by a little D on the top of each pick. So he brought his own color, and then I liked his color, so I took his color, and he took my color.
And it messed everything up.
So back to the picks. Bridgewater at Washington and Lee. Both of us took Bridgewater.
Yes.
DB took Washington and Lee. Mount St. Joseph versus Bluffton. You took Bluffton.
Yes, I did.
DB and I took Mount St. Joseph. And then the 2 games that we're really, really going to focus on, over there in the WEAC, the number 4 team and the number 7 team in the country are going to face off in a conference that is just, I don't know how these guys make it through the playoffs after they beat the hell out of each other for 10 weeks. I mean, the 2 teams are UW River Falls. They're going to be playing UW La Crosse, and La Crosse is 5-0 in the conference. They had that win over Whitewater right at the end of the game on a field goal. River Falls, only loss comes to at the hands of Whitewater. And this really, if River Falls can beat La Crosse, you got a 3-way tie up there at the top of the WEAC, with 3 of the top 10 teams in the country being at the top of that division. So that's a game that we're definitely going to watch. And DB and I took River Falls.
And I took La Crosse.
And the game of the week this week, a game that has been, its first contest was played in 1920. It's predominantly been the purple guys winning it a lot. Mount Union versus John Carroll. But the interesting thing is John Carroll coming off a big win last week over Muhlenberg. For those of you that didn't see, that was the Muhlenberg Miracle. Go look that up. That's a hell of a clip. And, last year, they only lost by 6. So, with that being said, none of us picked John Carroll. Mount Union's the second best team in the country. They have been the power of Division III for time immemorial, it feels like. So, but this game here, it's going to be an interesting one. And that's a correction because I don't believe Carroll was playing Muhlenberg. Still go look at the Muhlenberg Miracle, but it had nothing to do with John Carroll. So I'm just going to correct myself. But that being said, how you feeling about your picks this week?
They would have called you out. I wouldn't.
I know. And then, again, I've taken some heat on YouTube for asking dumb questions and saying dumb things. So
I've gotten some heat. And
you got heat from somebody not realizing they were just commenting on the pick. They never watched the show. Before this goes any further off the rails, we really appreciate you stopping by. Make sure you check us out next week. We'll be back on the college football trail with another Division III head football coach. And again, thank you to Brian Sansom for taking the time to be with us. And we'll catch you next week, Chuckleheads.
And we'll see if my picks screw me.
Oh, yeah, you're done. You're out. You're out. Out. Zeros. It's going to be a race to the top for me and DB.
Thanks for checking out this episode of Dingo Talk. Don't forget to rate, comment, and subscribe. For more info and to contact the show, you can find us on Twitter @DingoTalk.